Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see the next chapter, that is parliamentary committees. So this chapter, it is very important for the prelims point of view. If I am not wrong, in 2018 there is a one question regarding these parliamentary committees that appear in the prelims. So let us see all the important facts that are relevant to the prelims regarding these parliamentary committees. So before getting into this chapter, let us see the sum of the introduction. So what is the need of the parliamentary committees? We already have the parliament. Parliament mainly contains the members like Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and as well as the president. So what is the need of these parliamentary committees? So first let us see what is the need here. Here if you see our parliament, it is a very varied and it is a very complex and it is voluminous. So moreover, we do not see any time which is present to see into these issues, as well as in our parliament there are no members which are expertise regarding any problems. So mainly to make the detailed scrutiny of all the legislative measures and also other matters, there is a need of these parliamentary committees. So if you see the types of the parliamentary committees, there are two types. The first one is we can see the standing committees and next one is ad hoc committees. So what is the difference between these standing committees and these ad hoc committees? These standing committees are mainly formed. These are very permanent in nature. So whenever if there is any issue that to be solved, mainly to solve that issue, whenever the committee which is formed, that is of temporary nature. So after the solving of that problem, this committee will be resolved. So these type of the committee mainly for the temporary purpose, they are called as ad hoc committees. So if you see in our parliamentary committees, there are two types of the committees. First one is standing committees, second one is ad hoc committees. So let us see each one in detail, and these are very important regarding the prelims. So please focus here. So let us see what is written in our Lakshmikant. So if you see, these parliamentary committees are mentioned in our constitution in the different places. But if you see in our constitution, it does not make about any specific provisions that is regarding the composition, tenure, functions, etc. regarding these parliamentary committees. And these matters like composition, tenure and the functions, these will be determined by the rules of the Lok Sabha or the rules of the Rajya Sabha. So if you see what is this parliamentary committee means. So let us see. So whenever a committee that to be said as a parliamentary committee, that should be satisfied some conditions. The first important one here is it is appointed or elected by the House or nominated by either the Speaker or the Chairman. Speaker in the case of Lok Sabha, Chairman in the case of Rajya Sabha. So this is the first important thing. And the next one is it should work under the direction of the Speaker or the Chairman, because these committees are mainly appointed by this Speaker and the Chairman. So they should work under the direction of the Speaker or the Chairman of the House. And it should present its reports to the House or to the Speaker or to the Chairman. And it has a secretariat which is provided by the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. So whenever these four things are meeting by any committee, that is called as this parliamentary committee. So let us see the classification. These parliamentary committees, as we said earlier, they are mainly two types. The first one is standing committee and next one is ad hoc committee. So what is the difference? The difference here is these standing committees are permanent and these ad hoc committees, they are temporary in nature, and if to solve any problem, this committee will be established or set up, and after this problem which is resolved, again this committee will be resolved. So this is a temporary in nature. These ad hoc committees are temporary and these standing committees are less or more permanent in nature. So if you see these standing committees, they are mainly based on the nature of the functions that are performed by them, and these standing committees are divided into 6 categories. So these standing committees are very important regarding the prelims. So if you see these 6 types of the committees, they include, the first one is financial committee, next one is departmental standing committees, committees to inquire, committees to scrutinize and control, committees relating to day-to-day business of the House, housekeeping committees or service committees. So these are the 6 important committees. So let us see the ad hoc committees. So these ad hoc committees are mainly divided into 2 categories. The first one is inquiry committee, second one is advisory committee. So the name itself is saying that it is used for the inquiring of anything. So if you see these inquiry committees, they are mainly constituted by time to time, either by the 2 houses or any motion which is adopted behalf of that houses, or by the speaker or by the chairman of the house, mainly to inquire into any report or the specific subject. Mainly if there is inquiry needed, they will set up this inquiry committee. So it is temporary in nature. And the next one is advisory committee. So this advisory committee that include the select or the joint committees on the bill. They are mainly appointed to consider and the report to the particular bills. That means for the advisory purpose, and these advices which are given, it is not binding here again. And let us see the first important standing committee, that is financial committee. So we are going to discuss about this financial committee in this lecture. And there are 3 types of the financial committees in our parliament. The first one is public accounts committee, second one is the estimates committee. So let us see some of the facts regarding this public accounts committee. So please focus here. There are some minute points that may be important for the prelims. So these points we are going to discuss now. They will be the potential statements in your prelims exam. The first important one is this committee was set up the first time in the year 1921 under the provisions of the one important act, that is Government of India Act of 1919, that is Montagu-Chelmsford reforms as well. And the present members are about 22 members, and these members will come from both the Rajya Sabha and as well as the Lok Sabha. 15 members from the Lok Sabha and the 7 members from the Rajya Sabha. And these members, they are mainly elected by the parliament, and every year these members are elected from those members mainly through the proportional representation by the means of the single transferable vote. We already saw detailedly what is this proportional representation. I think there is no need of explaining again here. And the tenure of the office is 1 year. And one more important thing regarding the prelims here is a minister cannot be elected as a member of this committee. So the minister do not have the space here. And the next one is the chairman of this committee is appointed by its members by the speaker. So again, this is a very important prelims fact. And the important function of this committee, it is to examine the annual audit reports of the CAG, Comptroller Auditor General of India. These reports which are laid before the parliament by the president. So this CAG will give the report to the president, and president will lay this report before the parliament. So whenever the report which is placed in the parliament by this president, and this committee comes into picture, and this committee has to examine this annual audit report of this CAG. So this is the one of the important main function of this public accounts committee. And if you see this CAG, Comptroller Auditor General of India, submits 3 audit reports to the president. So these 3 reports are very important again. The first one is regarding appropriation accounts. Next one is audit report on finance accounts, audit report on public undertakings. So these 3 are very important for prelims. So the first one is appropriation account. Next one is audit report on the finance account, and the audit report on the public undertakings. So this committee examines the public expenditure not only from the legal formal point of view to discover these technical irregularities, but it also view or see in the point of economy, prudence, wisdom and propriety, mainly to bring out the cases of the waste or loss, corruption, extravagance, inefficiency, etc. So these all are to be taken into account by this public accounts committee. And other functions here include mainly to examine the appropriation account, as we know, and also the finance account, and as well as the union government whenever lays any other accounts before this committee, it have to go through this. So this is the first important function. And the next one is it will scrutinize the appropriation accounts, and it also audits the CAG reports as well. And the next one is regarding the scrutinizing of appropriation account, it has to satisfy some important things. So the first one is money that has been disbursed was legally available. So whenever we see this appropriation account, so what is this appropriation? Appropriation means simply we can withdraw the money from the Consolidated Fund of India. So without this appropriation bill, we cannot withdraw single penny from the Consolidated Fund of India, as we studied in our earlier lecture, correct? So if you see here, the money can be disbursed was legally available for that purpose or not. So if at all the money withdrawn, for example, so and so scheme X, so whether this money which is utilized for this scheme or not, so it should be scrutinized by this Public Accounts Committee. And the next one is the expenditure conforms to the authority that governs it, and as well as every reappropriation has been made in accordance with the related rules or not. So these three important things that should be satisfied by this Public Accounts Committee. And the next important function is to examine the accounts of state corporations regarding the trading concerns, manufacturing projects, audit reports of CAG, etc. So it should also examine the accounts of the state corporations as well. And the next one is it should also examine the accounts of autonomous and also semi-autonomous bodies. Mainly these are conducted by the CAG. The audit of these autonomous and the semi-autonomous body which are conducted by the CAG, again this should be taken up by the Public Accounts Committee. And the next one is to consider the report of the CAG, mainly relating to the audit of any receipt, to examine the accounts of the stores and the stocks, etc. And next one is to examine the money which is spent by any service during the financial year in excess of amount which is granted by the Lok Sabha. So what is this excess grant? Already we studied. Whenever, for example, for a scheme X, there is 1000 crore rupees which is allocated, but the government spent about 1500 crores, that is 500 crores extra. So for this 500 crores, there will be the excess grant that will be passed in the parliament, mainly to withdraw this excess money from the Consolidated Fund of India. So whenever this 500 for the extra money of this 500 crore, that is excess grant, that is passed, so this Public Accounts Committee will go and will see whether this money which is given to this extra will be useful or not, it is correct or not, whether this government spent that extra money for that so and so scheme or not. So this can be checked by this Public Accounts Committee. And the next important one is CAG, that is Comptroller Auditor General of India, which acts as a guide, friend, philosopher of this Public Accounts Committee. Again, this is an important prelims fact. Okay, so these are the some important functions. So let us see now the limitations of this committee. So there are some limitations as well. The first one is this committee will not concern with the questions of the policy regarding the broader sense. So it does not talk about the questions of the policy. And the next one is it conducts a post-mortem examination of the accounts. That means whatever the expenditure that is already done by the government on that expenditure, there will be the examination that happens. So it is like a post-mortem examination. And the next one is it can't intervene in the matters of the day-to-day administration of this parliament. And these recommendations which came up by this Public Accounts Committee, it is advisory in nature but not binding on the ministries. And the next one is it is not vested with the power of disallowances of the expenditure by the departments, and it is not an executive body as we know, hence they cannot issue the order as well. So if you see, only the parliament can take the final decisions on its findings, and whatever the things which are said by this committee in this report, that will be advisory, not binding in nature. So these are the some facts regarding this Public Accounts Committee which are very important regarding the prelims. So let us see the next committee, that is Estimates Committee. So when this committee was formed, this committee was formed in the way back 1921, and if you see the first Estimates Committee in the post-independence India, it was formed in the 1950. And on the recommendation of John Mathai, this John Mathai was the finance minister at that time. On the recommendations of this John Mathai, this Estimates Committee was established in India after our getting independence in the year 1950. And if you see the members, there are 30 members, and all these 30 members, they can be derived from only Lok Sabha. That means Rajya Sabha do not have any representation in this estimates committee. This is a very, very important point. And the next one is, these members mainly elected by the Lok Sabha every year from its members according to the principles of proportional representation by the means of single transferable vote. The one thing I want to say here is, in this finance committees, in this all three finance committees, people are elected by this proportional representation by the means of single transferable vote. So this thing you should remember here. And the tenure is 1 year. Again, minister cannot be elected as a member of committee. Again, this is an important prelims fact. And if you see the chairman of this committee, appointed by the speaker amongst the members of the Lok Sabha. And the next one is, the function of this committee, it is to examine the estimates included in the budget and suggest economies in the public expenditure. So the name itself, it is saying that it's an estimate committee. So the main important function of this estimate committee, it is to examine the estimates which are given in the budget. So if you see, because of this committee, it is called as a continuous economic committee. So this is also an important prelims fact. So continuous economic committee, which is the estimates committee. So let us see the functions in more detail. The first one is mainly to report what economies, improvements in the organizations, as well as efficiency and administrative reforms consistent with the policy underlying the estimates that can be effected. So it should see regarding the economies, improvements, efficiency, administrative reforms, etc. And the next one is, it also to suggest the alternative policies in order to bring about the efficiency and economy in the administration. Whenever to bring the more efficiency, it can also suggest some alternative policies, and to examine whether the money is well laid out within the limits of the policies that is implied in these estimates or not. So this is also one important thing. And the next one is to suggest the form in which the estimates ought to be presented to the parliament. So these are the some of the important functions of this estimates committee. And as well as, let us see the limitations. So limitations are almost all similar to all these financial committees. It examines the budget estimates only after being voted. So it is like a post-mortem again, and it cannot question the policy which is laid by the parliament. And these recommendations are again advisory and not binding on the ministries. And it examines every year only certain selected departments or ministries. So if it want to cover all the departments and all the ministries, it takes several years of time. And it also lacks the expert assistance of the CAG. If you see the Public Accounts Committee, it have the assistance of the CAG. But to this Estimates Committee, this assistance of the CAG which is not present. So it is work in the nature of a post-mortem. That is, I said earlier that there may be the estimations that is happened only after the voting that is happened. So it is like a post-mortem again. And let us see the next important committee, that is Committee on Public Undertaking. So this is the third committee under this financial committees. This committee was established in the year 1964 mainly on the recommendations of Krishna Menon Committee. So this Krishna Menon Committee, it is very important for the prelims point of view. Okay. And if you see, the members are originally 15 members. Out of these 15 members, 10 members from the Lok Sabha and the 5 members from the Rajya Sabha. But this membership, it is raised after a decade in 1974, and this membership was raised to 22. Out of this 22, 15 members from the Lok Sabha and remaining 7 members from the Rajya Sabha. And the members of this committee, they are elected by the parliament every year, mainly through the principle of the proportional representation by the means of the single transferable vote. So one important point that you should note here is, all these financial committees, the members are elected or members are taken by this proportional representation by the means of single transferable vote. And again the tenure is for 1 year, and again the ministers cannot be elected as a member of committees. And if you see the chairman of this committee, who will be appointed by the speaker, mainly among the members who are drawn from the Lok Sabha only. So this is very important prelims fact. So the chairman of this committee will be appointed by the Speaker only from the member of the Lok Sabha, not from the member of Rajya Sabha. If you see the members will be from the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, but if you see the chairman of this committee, he will be from exclusively from Lok Sabha but not from the Rajya Sabha. So let us see the functions. The first one is to examine the reports, accounts of the public undertakings. Next one is to examine the reports of CAG on public undertakings, as well as to examine whether the affairs of the public undertakings are being managed in accordance with the sound business principles or not. And next one is to exercise such other functions which are vested with this Public Accounts Committee as well as this Estimates Committee in relation to that of the public undertakings. So if there is any function which is related to this Public Accounts Committee, Estimates Committee in relation with this Public Accounts Committee, so they should have this other function as well. And next one, let us see the limitations. Limitations are almost same for these three financial committees. The first one is it cannot take up the examination of more than 10 to 12 public undertakings a year, and the work is as usual, it is like a post-mortem, and it does not look into the technical matters as its members are not technical experts, and its recommendations are advisory, not binding on the ministries. So these are the 4 important limitations. So by this we are completed this financial committees. In the next lecture we are going to cover the remaining other committees. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. Thank you so much.